parents and all people who is involved when there is high conflict, including lawyers, judges, need to understand that even if the child doesn't show any kind of impact, the impact of the high conflict is there. And is there where? It's there in the brain structure. That means what? That the connections in what we call the old brain, that is the brain that doesn't have compassion, that is impulsive, that doesn't self-regulate, that only, the goal is only survive, is very active. And the connections in this area of the brain became much more stronger. So, for instance, the amygdala will be bigger in these children. When that brain is active, it's like the developed brain, the more human brain, like the neocortex, can't work because the survival mode is much more strong than the other things that we as humans developed, like empathy, compassion, planning, self-regulation. Imagine a baby. A baby that is involved in this high conflict can cry more. Why? Because the amygdala is much more stimulated. So have much more difficulty in self-regulate because he needs the adult to self-regulate. A baby doesn't have yet a system to self-regulate. So if the adult in the other side is angry because the father brings the baby late, or because father didn't give the baby the food that the mother wanted, or the opposite, the father is angry because mother didn't, okay? Of course, baby can read all these signs. Even in babies, we have impact through the adults. When we look more for teenagers, because they are teenagers, we can see two different effects. You can see teenagers that became very oppositional, aggressive, not compliant. Why? Because they have the amygdala that tells them, you need to survive, you need to be by yourself. You can have also teenagers that internalize. They start to ask, who am I? Am I the one that my mother wants that I be? Or am I the one that my father wants I be? Where am I? They can start to show some depression signs, anxiety signs. Some of them start to speak about, why do I live? Why is my life important? It's very worrying. But sometimes we don't see that impact immediately. We only see that in the adult life. Because we know that the brain is involved, but also the genetic. The studies of epigenetic science show us that this high stress impacts the way the genes express themselves. They can act and activate a gene that shouldn't be, or deactivate, and we face much more physical disease in adulthood, like cancer, because of the inflammation that stress causes, because of all these epigenetic changes. We need to help parents to understand that impact is not only in the mental health, but also in physical health. When we help parents to realize what they are doing, sometimes this works, sometimes doesn't. Parents are so angry with each other because they didn't solve the conflict they had when they are a couple. It's still there. They should do therapy even after divorce. They should realize that the mental health and physical health of their children is in danger. Sometimes it's so strange for them to understand that a child that looks perfect, behaves well, have good marks at school, have friends, is always polite. That child is behaving that way because the tension between parents is so huge that she doesn't want to contribute to more tension. This causes a lot of suffering to that child. Could start to show things that no one expects. Anorexia, because they want to be so perfect, that they need to control, and they control through the body. We need to have answers, not in next year, because one day in a baby life is more than 20 years in adult life. So children don't have time to wait for court decisions, don't have time to fight at lawyers. And it's why it's so important to help parents when they decide to divorce, to think about the way they want to communicate and relate with each other. They don't need to like each other. They don't need. They only need to like the child. They don't scream because they know that the child that hears the parent scream with the other is feeling why. In this moment that you are living, in this socio-historical moment, they are more worried. In some European countries and American countries, South American countries, the extreme right politics are increasing. Women are again putting in the place that they should not to think about to have a profession, don't think about to have a career. They should think about stay home, taking care of children. Of course, we are speaking about healthy families that have money. Women's rights are again in danger in these kind of countries. And another question is about the kind of relationships that today young people want to have. Homosexuality, LGBT, everything is much more accepted and good, fantastic. Two women, they live together, they want to have a baby. With artificial insemination, I will be the one carrying the baby. We divorced, and I say, the baby is mine, because it was me who carrying him. And he said, no, because the egg was mine. Imagine a child have 4 parents. A mother that live with a woman and a father that live with a man. And one of the women and one of the men decide to have a child. So imagine if one day they decide to divorce and if they don't agree. We need more education. I think that education is key for everything. We need to educate not only the parents, we need to educate all the community. A child who is in a high conflict relationship between the parents, when that child arrives to school, of course, she can't be concentrated. And the teacher shouldn't send that child to specialized services that will do a diagnosis of attention problems. The problem is the child. It isn't. Even if child have an attention deficit disorder, It increases if there is conflict. Earlier teachers, even university teachers, should look for each person in the classroom and think, I don't know nothing about that person. I need to be careful. I need to be respectful. I need to be kind. And people are not so kind as they should be. And again, the values are the same. Peace, respect, accepting differences. Be aware. Our societies, they are so individualist that I only think about myself. Okay, what is better for me? Oh, for me it's better that my baby stay only with me. And for that baby, oh, same, because I'm much better. And why are you much better? Why? Humans need to have an egg and spermatozoids, yes? To have a baby, we need two, always two. And this is protection, this is our survival mode. If I have two parents, if one die, I have the other. We could have, like some animals, don't need interaction, and we could have babies like we have fruit in the trees. But no, babies have the right to have two or more adults. Love them to the extreme. This kind of human being that thinks in the others, we need to self-care, to care from the others, of course. That human being is not just a product of a father and a mother, two mothers, two fathers. No, it's a product of all society.